Okie dokie.
Okie doke. We waited a long time for the series to get fucked up, and
it's pretty fucked up. Got some good body horror in this this part.
Just crazy.
Good. Right into that's where Five Nights at Freddy's needs to go, into the far off grimdark.
Yes, absolutely. Of course. Like, they just had to wait until they got everyone really hooked, and then they were like,
really hooked. Yeah, you know what we need is we need Warhammer 40K Five Nights at Freddy's crossover.
That's what we need. Oh my God. Oh,
and all of the animatronics are manifestations of chaos.
Yeah. Oh and my God.
Like it's just like there's this it's somewhere in a hive city. There's like a restaurant or something, like a food court with these animatronics, and they're manifestations of chaos, and you know, just the plebs who go in and out are being corrupted by the chaos of these.
I love it.
Yeah.
You could do it with gene stealers too. Do a whole
You could.
Imperial Guardsmen, gene stealers coming up out of the sewers kind of thing. I guess they did do that with Alien Isolation, though.
Yeah, I can't wait for Alien Isolation. I can't wait for Alien Isolation 2.
Oh, I almost thought that they just they made that one phone game for it. Yeah. And I thought, okay, that might be it. That might be it. It might be
it's just like Creative Assembly spends most of their time working, like pumping out Total War games. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess Sega was like, okay, you can do another Alien Isolation as a treat.
Right. As a treat. Enjoy
as a treat. Sega makes a Yakuza game every year, so why not an occasional Alien Isolation game?
That game fucking rules so much. It to the point that I had my I had my Switch in Ohio this past the weekend, and I was playing games on it, and I was like, Alien Isolation's on the Switch, right? Like I'll rebuy it to have it on a handheld. Are you shitting me? Like, that game rules. I will play that game any day.
Any day, all the time. And you know what else rules?
What's that?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Pixel It. My name is Kevin. With me, as always, is Phil. On today's show, we are diving deeper into the closet. That's right, the fourth closet. Five Nights at Freddy's. The fourth closet. Oof. Oh boy. Oh brother.
Oh brother. We're getting metaphorical here. It's beautiful. I love it.
It's beautiful. It's wondrous. You know what's a wonderful website, Phil? Well, before we get into the closet, I just want to talk about patreon.com/pixelitpod, where you can go to follow us for free. And you get stuff right off the bat. You get stuff. Following us for free gets you early access to the episodes. When I post them early, you get a link that lets you listen to it early on your phone, on your computer, what have you. It's there. It's not in the feeds yet. It's just there for you, for the early birds. So get on that free membership. All right. $1 gets you access to our blog post, Phil's blog, where he reviews horror stories. $5 a month gets you the ad-free episodes and gets you the bonus content that we record, where Phil and I shooting the shit before every episode. 10 minutes of us talking. What more could you want? And $10 a month gets you all that, plus your name shouted out in every episode. To that end, I want to thank Jesus Loves You, Kyle Seaman, Ruthless Mutter, Middle of Things, Sigma Sal, Chut Beaks, Dummy Thick, and Friendly Friend. Thank you for being a friend. Patreon.com/pixelitpod.
We love you so.
So this book is getting interesting.
We waited a long time for the Five Nights at Freddy's books to get kind of fucked up. And And about halfway through the final book in the trilogy, we got our wish. So I guess better late than never.
So let's go ahead and put the body in the marsh.
Body, marsh, on with it.
When I tell you to dump a body in the marsh, you dump them in the marsh.
Okay. Now, if you remember correctly, last episode, we ended off at chapter 5, and a not Charlie imposter murdered the shit out of poor Aunt Jen.
Poor Aunt Jen. Very
Poor
dead.
Aunt Jen, very super dead, and then went off to find presumably the real Charlie. That's that, I think, which is what it's looking for in the first place.
Right.
So chapter 6 opens up with John and Jessica basically going to Clay's place and finding the Ella doll, the robot that he had said that Charlie didn't have any interest in, and they were like, that's crazy. They find a disc that can basically turn it into this baby version of Charlie.
Right.
It says a little bit something about how all of this happens.
Right.
And they, within the same envelope that Clay gave them, there was a bunch of photos and stuff of all of them. There's also some microfilm in there. And so they end up at the library where a stone cold standoff happens between Jessica and the librarian. This is such a random moment. It was like, it's like, he's like, do you know how to use microfilm? And she goes, actually, I don't. And he's like, John's like, no, I know how to use it. Are you sure you know how to use it? Yes, yeah. And we get like half a page of like,
may I show you to where we keep the microfilm? And they're like, oh no, we have our own.
We brought our own. We brought our own from home. And it's just, and he couldn't be more annoyed with them, sneering down his nose at them, unlike any librarian I've ever met. It's like, it makes me think of like a Roald Dahl story where like all the adults are just fucking assholes.
Yeah.
It's such a random moment.
Just
but
the
I got
worst,
a kick out of it.
Yeah.
So in the microfilm, they're finding images of Charlie, and they zoom in on her and find like lines, like basically striations in her face that clearly indicate that she is not Charlie, that she's an animatronic. She's Circus Baby. Yeah. Essentially. And that's
it's like for a while, John's like, no, that's just, she's just moving. That's just nothing. And then they're like,
blurry and stuff. Yeah.
That is not a human.
Yeah. And that's what they realized that, Clay meant last episode when he was talking about there's a maximum range.
Right.
Basically, it's, if you're further away or too close or something, it's just not convincing enough. It doesn't do the job.
Right.
And makes the shape shifting fucked up. Having discovered this, they realize that the real Charlie is probably in danger because the fake Charlie, the not Charlie, is searching for her. So they rush back to John's apartment. And that brings us to chapter 7.
I like the fact that she starts writing, starts referring to Charlie, the fake Charlie, as not Charlie in the text.
It's a nice little conceit, isn't it? I like that too. When I say not Charlie, I'm not being cute. No, that's actually how they refer to her in the book. I think that was I thought that was really clever, rather than like her clone or whatever.
Right.
I liked that too. I thought that was really cool. So they end up at John's apartment, and not Charlie shows up, and it's awkward. It gets really awkward really fast because now John's been validated in the whole she's not really Charlie kind of thing. And Jessica, he's had plenty of time to think this through. Jessica has not. They're all really freaked out.
Sure.
And Charlie's kind of like, I don't know. There's a part of me that it feels like she's toying with them a little bit. Like,
yeah,
she's
clearly she's like, because the scene starts and she's just kind of like, hey, how's it going? And then it's clear that she is just walking around the apartment looking under things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, looking in hiding places.
Obviously.
Yeah. And real Charlie is currently hidden behind the couch.
Yes. And John has been like, oh, well, before you come inside, I got to click on my boy. Boys don't clean. Oh, man. And Jessica's like, yeah, and we'll hang out here, and it's just awkward and tense. And he's hiding real Charlie. Unfortunately, she doesn't find her. And that's when not Charlie chooses to ask John out on another date at the same place, the same old place that you and that wacky murderer had dinner before.
Yeah.
And so he agrees. Yeah, sure, fine, sounds good. Just leave, please. And they both head out. He offers to give her a ride or something like that, and she's like, no, I got this. So Jessica and Charlie leave. We do get a quick moment at this point of real Charlie waking up out of her unconsciousness, and we get just a little snippet of her. And just like the fact that I think was basically to show she's okay. She's not beyond help at this point.
Right.
So we cut to Charlie and not Charlie and John at their date. And it is still incredibly awkward until finally John just kind of goes, I know what you are. I know what's happening. Like,
yeah, he's very straightforward. And meanwhile, he's got a walkie-talkie in his jacket pocket for Jessica and Carlton to listen to, because this is kind of like how Jessica is kind of like breaking the news to Carlton and be like, hey, you know how John was being kind of crazy about how that's not Charlie? Yeah. Turns out he was right.
Yeah, he was absolutely right. And so he just kind of lets it go. And it's actually pretty cool. It's really creepy. Not Charlie, instead of like threatening him or something like that, she gives him a kiss and says, well, it's always nice to have dinner, and like starts kind of like laying it on real thick and like, you know, and cause he's basically said like, look, if I got to expose you here in front of all these people, I'll do it. I don't care what you do to me. And so she's like, okay, we're at an impasse. And so she's like, well, that's just swell. Isn't that nice? You know, and it's really creepy because she's like so pissed, but she's got to be nice.
Yeah.
So she leaves. And we get Jessica, shadowing her, following her, and hiding in not Charlie's trunk. Yes, hides in the trunk. And then they drive to, it's the Pizza Baby or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Circus Baby's Pizza.
Circus Baby. Yeah.
So, and the one thing I had, and I guess it's a logistics issue because this is like what, 1996, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I guess Trunks, I guess probably didn't have the safety latch on the inside yet. Did they?
You know what? Hold on. I'm going to look that up.
You're going to look that up. When did that happen? Because she makes kind of a big deal about having to hold the trunk shut in such a way, like almost latched, but not latched, so that it wasn't bouncing up and down too much that not Charlie would notice it. But yeah.
Okay. So it was only mandated. It's now illegal to not have one, and that was started in September of 2001.
Oh,
but that was the mandate. So
it's very likely that the car might not have had one.
It might not have. Yeah, it's this is actually really very interesting. There have been a lot of people like petitioning for it since the 80s. So it finally became law in 2001. So yeah, it may have been just that kind of logistical kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they make it to the pizza place, and Jessica kind of follows her inside, and then is basically ambushed by not Charlie, who reveals her true self as a horrible Circus Baby animatronic freak.
It is like, the way it's written is pretty terrifying because of the way it's like Kira Breedley was like, all right, I know these are robots, but I'm going to describe it like it's the Thing.
Yeah. There's some serious body horror stuff in here. It's really impressive. She really got to come out and have fun with this. I don't know what,
because it's like, there's the Circus Baby face, and then there's like a woman's, like a generic woman's face underneath the Circus Baby face.
Yeah.
And at one point it says the Circus Baby face splits open to reveal another face. And then it starts like rotating around the head.
And these petals coming off, and they act as a buzzsaw basically.
Yeah. And it was like, ugh.
It's good writing. It's good writing. And it makes me wonder what was holding her back in the first couple of books. Although the second book was way better than the first.
The second book was way better than the first. It kind of had a messy ending compared to where it started. But yeah, no, the first one was mess beginning to end. Whereas this one is now like, okay, we have
some real shit.
We got rid of like half the characters basically.
Yeah. And thank God. And thank God, by the way, because I do want to point out that in this chapter, we get a real Carlton Creeper moment. He sees the Not Charlie clone and just kind of like ogles her, like just like checking her out. And it's like, everyone's like, dude, like that's it. We're here for a reason. It's not to check her out. And he's just like, he exists basically just to be horny at this point.
It's like, well, then she shouldn't have been that hot. Is basically his response.
Evil robot bitch, man. She was asking for it. It's really bad. Carlton is not a good person.
Jesus, no.
He's
probably lowest on the list of the characters and the remaining.
He sucks. At least with Marla, they found something to do with her a little bit.
Isn't Carlton the one? Isn't Carlton the brother of the kid who got killed? That they were coming back. That in the first one,
was that what it was, or was it? Maybe it was. I don't remember.
I think so. It was like, and they never speak of that again.
No, well, that's the thing. I feel like somewhere along the way, because if you look at these books side by side, the first one is thick. It's like way thicker than the other ones. This one's got more pages than the second one, but neither of them are as long as the first one.
First one. Yeah.
And as we complained in our episodes about the first one, nothing happens. It's like really long, a bunch of characters, and nothing happens. And
they keep going back to the diner, or whatever, for nothing to happen.
Nothing happened, and it was just so. It just was so slow and so dull and infuriating at times. And so at some point, they were like, "Look, this is what we have to do. We have to cut like half of the characters, or at very least." Half of those characters have to have like just like a little on screen time. We have to really. So
we're talking, and we're doing one plot line. It's one single plot line.
One plot.
What the fuck's going on with Charlie and her family? You know,
that's good enough. That's good enough. We don't need all this extra added shit. And I have to assume it's Kira Breed Risley who did this because she's the professional writer.
Yeah,
and. It just at some point somebody came in and just tightened the shit out of this. But it does have hilarious effects now, like what we're talking about now, when you're like, didn't this guy lose it? This guy who's a main character in the first book is this kind of shrimpy minor character, but it's a good thing. Like this was the right call. So that's chapter 8. So that's chapter 7. Chapter 8 starts with Jessica. She has been kidnapped by Not Charlie, who gives her this long speech. Basically, she's Pinocchio. She wants to be a real boy. She is jealous of the real Charlie and the attention she gets, and is kind of delusional and psychopathic about the whole thing. So Jessica, basically openly tries to escape because she notices that Not Charlie isn't really trying to stop her. And when she finally gets herself untied and runs out, she sees why. That's because there's a Springtrap there who does this wild song and dance number. It's like dancing around like a maniac and singing about how you're going to be dead soon. And then a man in the wheelchair, William Afton, appears. Yep. Our man in the shadows up until this point. He is
looking rough.
Looking bad. Looking really bad. He is been kept alive basically by robot tech. This is more body horror. You do get descriptions like she can literally see veins coiled around different capacitors and shit like that in his chest.
He has one eye remaining. He has there's not it is extreme Darth Vader posting here.
Yeah. It's grimdark Darth Vader. It's pretty bleak. And just when you think it couldn't get bleaker, we get a lot of talk from between the two of them. He's basically doing kind of an early Scooby-Doo villain thing, telling him what his diabolical plan has been.
Right.
And he is trying to escape death essentially by it's kind of a Theseus's ship sort of situation, where he's one by one taking pieces of him piece by piece and installing them in this other robot.
Because he's because basically he has this thesis and be like, there is some sort of animus, there's some sort of magic of killing someone within these suits, and that is how the suits became possessed in the first place. So he's like, by my powers of science and my vague understanding of spirituality and magic, like, I need to, piece by piece, I'm going to transfer myself into a suit. And it's just like suit. Terrifying.
Yeah,
the concept.
It's a horrible concept. And then the Not Charlie robot basically says, well, you have to watch. And Jessica's like, what the fuck do you mean you have to watch? And so we start watching as Afton goes under. They put him under and remove his kidney. Yeah. And hands it to Jessica. Like, the robot makes her sterilize herself and everything, like scrub up and everything. And like, we get this really tense, long, graphic scene of this operation getting his kidney taken out and transplanted into this waiting machine that's going to be his new.
And it's like the innards of this machine are like molten. So it's like putting the kidney into this molten mass so it becomes one part and parcel with the machine itself.
It all absorbs into this one thing.
The essence of his kidney is now inside of this.
It's great. it's the best scene in any of these books. It's bleak. It's dark. It's well written. It's scary. I was like, holy shit, is this?
And
are we sure?
The entire time, Jessica, to not lose her mind, is thinking about shoes.
Yeah. She's like, I have to think about anything but this. And so she's like, kitten heels, slingbacks, just like she has to think of anything but what's going on. But it's because she has to participate and he's like forcing her to. The clamps, and another scalpel. It's like, it's fucked up. It's really fucked up.
It's grotesque and gory.
Yep. And it's what we were hoping we would find in our Five Nights at Freddy's book a whole lot sooner. But again, better late than never.
The part that gave me the most shivers of like was when Afton talks about how my scalp was ripped off my head the first time I removed myself from the spring trap, and I was like,
it's just this shit he gets into. If you get a chance, you really should read it. We're not going to recite it all here, but it's so freaky. And then as it all ends, they basically have a Pulp Fiction moment where they just jab Afton full of adrenaline in the heart, and he wakes up and he says, "Is it done?" And Jessica just chooses that moment to freak out. And rightfully so. She's earned that. And to calm her down, the Not Charlie, who has looked like a robot at this point, flashes on the shapeshifter illusion we've been talking about and looks like Charlie and says, "You don't have to worry. I'm here to protect you," and stuff. And it's just so weird. It's really grotesque and strange. And, I love it. It was my favorite chapter we've read so far of this whole series.
The entire trilogy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. So we cut to chapter 9. The whole gang's here, and they basically head over to John's, find Charlie there. Charlie has kind of woken up for the most part. She is sentient again. And they start discussing what is to be done about this whole thing. And he asks her about her previous project that she'd been working on. And these earpieces that were used to make the robots recognize you. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Could you reverse it?" And she's like, "Yeah, I guess." And so John explains to Carlton, what you need to do is you need to go to Jessica's house. That's where Charlie's stuff all is. And those wires, you just have to switch the wires. We need you to get in there, get the earpieces, switch the wires. And the idea is that when you turn it on, you'll basically be invisible to the robots. They will be forced to look past you, essentially. It's for anybody who's a big old Vampire the Masquerade fan. It's basically like obfuscate powers that the Nosferatu have, where you're there and people just they choose not to notice you. It's pretty cool.
Right.
Pretty cool stuff. So Carlton, fucking idiot. I hate Carlton so much. Such a useless piece of shit. He ends up going to Jessica's house. They told her, there'll be a key under the doormat, and he gets the key. And basically he's in there and he finds the earpieces. And he also finds these two robot faces that are just staring at him. Yeah. And he switches the wires and kind of tests them out on them. And it works. It works. Like they're like trying to, it's clear. They're doing, he says, like, you guys are all into pronouns, aren't you? Because they're saying he, she, you, it, and when he, turns on the thing, they don't see him. It works.
Right.
And at this point, he hears somebody in the house, and it's not Charlie, who he knows is not Charlie. He's been let in on all this stuff.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
But he's still kind of fucked up about it in the sense that he's like, he's you can tell at first he's like, oh, it's Charlie. Oh, like he needs a minute to kind of let it sink in. Yeah. And once again, we get a super awkward scene where Charlie, and they've described her a lot of times as like this new glamorous version of Charlie. Right. Basically, not Charlie is what Charlie looks like in the final quarter of the 90s popular kid movie, high school movie. They took off the glasses and took out the ponytail, and here she is. Yeah. So she's kind of flirting with him. She knows that he's up to something. And so she's kind of flirting with him and stuff. And so Charlie uses his incredible powers of negging he basically is like, it's so fucked up. He's like, hey, listen, no offense, but I'm just not that into you. Yeah, you're not, maybe lose a few pounds and call me. I think he literally says something like that.
He says lose a few pounds and call. Yeah, he does.
He basically, it's like, holy Jesus shit. And then of course we get the big, robot reveal, spikies and evil, not Charlie there.
And the song "Kiss Me" by Sixpence None the Richer suddenly just cuts off. It's been playing this entire time.
Yeah.
Kiss me.
and then it cuts to "Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me" by U2, as featured on the Batman Forever soundtrack. Yeah. And which is an underrated soundtrack, by the way. That was not a great movie, but that soundtrack fucking ruled.
The DJ seamlessly transfers that into "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal in the Batman Returns soundtrack.
Oh yeah, though that's the Forever. That's the Forever too.
That's in Forever.
Yeah, it's Forever. And, damn. But that was the big hit. But dude, there's like fucking Offspring, PJ Harvey, Sunny Day Real Estate. Fucking
wow. Look at this.
It's like this great indie rocker kind of lineup.
You got Nick Cave on there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good Nick Cave song. It's really, really good.
It's wild.
It's a wild soundtrack. I grew up listening to it, and I didn't realize, I think until college, how many like real, like authentic, like rocker groups that introduced me to. I was like, oh, I know cool music because of the Batman Forever soundtrack.
You got Flaming Lips. You got you got Method Man on there.
Oh yeah. That's a good one too. The Riddler.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's really, really good. The Devlins is on there. Yeah, it's all good. It's a very, very good album.
Anyway, the Batman Forever soundtrack just has been playing now.
Yes, it's been playing. It's been playing this entire time. And this is when Carlton very cleverly turns the switch on the earpiece, and what do you know? Sixpence None the Richer comes back on, and not Charlie. Me. Yeah, and not Charlie is very confused. And what the fuck? Where did he go? It totally works. And it gives him the opportunity to escape. We cut to John, who basically gets some alone time with Charlie. Now, earlier in the book, he has told her unconscious body that he loves her, and Charlie basically lets it. This is our cutesy teen book moment. We're required by law to have that in books like these. That's fine, because she basically has a moment. She's like, "I just remember you saying that you love me." You know, and he totally blows it. Like he's like, well, I love you. I love Jessica. I love Carlton. I love all you guys. So I would have said that to anybody in that position. It's like, So he fucking blew it. And, so she had this dream, that Springtrap took Sammy, her sister, brother. They introduced that. Now I'm all fucked up.
Yeah.
Basically, she's demanding of Springtrap why you took Sammy, and Springtrap keeps telling her, "I took you," which is interesting. Yeah. So we get a moment here where John basically gets her up to speed on Aunt Jen, both in the sense that he saw her when everything went down at the end of the second book and like the house collapsed. He saw her there and he's not sure why. And he also watched her get killed. And she kind of guesses she got killed, didn't she? And so Charlie basically says, well, like if she was out in this Silver Reef area, then that means there's more. There's more to it out there. There's probably more to investigate. So they agree that they're going to head on out to Silver Reef. Yeah. And that's the end of chapter 9.
Intermission. Yeah. Rachel Lee Cook was in a movie, a Spirit Halloween movie.
Oh, right. Has that come out? I thought I saw.
Yeah, it came out technically 2 years ago.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else then.
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd was in it too.
Oh, that's good.
Good for him.
Holy shit, Rachel Lee Cook looks so good. She's still friggin' gorgeous. She's just a knockout.
It's just wild. She just doesn't really get much of any like looking at her list of recent work. It's she's working just like in things that are, not great.
Not great. Yeah. It just, I feel like she deserves better than this.
She was all that.
She was all that. She was totally all that. She played all that. In She's All That.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know. I thought they were making another movie about that. Okay.
Anyway. There was a He's All That. That she was in.
He's All That? Jesus.
Yeah, but she does not play the same character.
Oh God, that came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
She's in it. I'll be damned. And a bunch of people, I do not know who they are. This looks bad. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how did all those teen movies happen in the mid to late, like from 1995 to like 2000? There was just so many teen movies.
It's kind of a perfect storm of high school movies,
Yeah.
And I think I want to say that like Fast Times at Richmond High had a lot to do with that. Like it set the scene for a bunch of these things. It was just, and so everyone liked that movie, but it was kind of bawdy and R-rated, if I remember correctly. And so they were like, well, people liked that, but we want more people to come in for kids to spend the money on the tickets. So they made a bunch of basically that, but PG-13 instead.
Yeah.
It was a good time for that. 10 Things I Hate About You. And there was a lot of Shakespeare ripping off, as I recall.
Right. Yeah.
It was a weird time to be into movies, but they are still, they hold up, in their own way. Can't Hardly Wait. I really liked Can't Hardly Wait.
Can't Hardly Wait.
That one has got some problems.
But, what's funny is we rewatched it recently.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, okay. I mean, Can't Hardly Wait. Like, I understand why it was, it was like, oh yeah, this is peak 1998. This
and
is
it had
so 98.
every teen actor in it. Like, even if they didn't have, like, Jason Segel's in it, he says like 2 things. And like, yeah, it was a whole, that cast was crazy.
Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ethan Embry, Seth Green.
Yep. Special
let's
K.
see. Yeah. Peter Facinelli, who would later get that Twilight money.
Totally. That was the thing. I saw the first Twilight movie on a date in college, in grad school, with a girl we both know, and I remember seeing him, and I was like, oh, thank God he's getting work. That was the first thing I thought. It was the first thing I'd seen him in since Can't Hardly Wait, and he's a good actor. So I was like, I'm so glad he's getting work.
Yeah, good for him.
Charlie Korsmo. Of course. You've got like Jamie Presley, who's girlfriend number 1. You've got all these really, you got a lot of Freddie Rodriguez, Donald Faison, Chris Owen. Like, this is a crazy cast. Clea Duvall.
Yeah.
This is Selma Blair. Like, come on, man. Like, this cast is insane. And most of them are hardly in it at all. Jennifer Love Hewitt. We are looking at all my 90s crushes today. That's just what's happening, I guess.
All of them. Yeah.
Just outstanding.
Ethan Embry looks like a totally different human being.
Are you looking at the same picture of him where it looks like he's a serial killer or a cult leader or something? He looks like a cult leader.
He looks like it is a sex cult.
Yes, he's got the big I hope to God that this is for a movie or something he's working on. This is not the look, my friend.
Yeah.
This is not the look. Oh, and he was in Empire Records. That was another really good teen movie that I liked.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have Renee Zellweger in that, and Liv Tyler, and all these really good people. Why is he doing this? Is he just leaning into looking like this is man. Yeah, he looks like a straight up cult leader.
Yeah.
Oh, this is bleak. And he's wonderful too, because he was like just so charming and sweet. He had this really kind of like, you want to pinch his cheeks kind of face, which maybe that's why. Maybe he just hated that. He got sick of that. And he's like, I'm going to look like a child molester instead. Google Ethan Embry, guys, and tell us if we're wrong. But I don't think kids think we are.
Yeah.
This is
if any of the people that we just talked about are in fact canceled,
please let us know.
Let us know. We don't keep up with the canceled
we're
people
too old
necessarily.
For this shit. Unless it's somebody that directly affects our lives, and then just it's not that we don't care. It's just there's a lot going on with
I just remember Ethan Embry as TV player in That Thing You Do.
And he's married to Sonny Mabry? What the fuck? He married her twice.
Oh, wow.
Sonny Mabry and him got married, and they were married for like 7 years and then got divorced. And 3 years later, they got back together, still together.
Wild.
Okay. I'm not mad about it. Well done, sir. He earned it.
There you go.
He made our childhoods. He was an integral part in that. I mean, sure. Have some Sonny Mabry.
Sonny Mabry of Species 3 and XXX State of the Union.
I literally only know her from Vine. She got really popular on Vine back when the internet was made for me, and I felt good all the time. Yeah, which was also around the same time I went on a date to see Twilight in theaters, and that was only a slight hiccup in the cool cruising USA highway that was my life. Jesus Christ. Okay, let's wrap this up. I got one chapter left, and it's very short. Chapter 10, Jessica wakes up in this undisclosed location, locked in with a bunch of little kids, about 7 years old. And these are the children that Afton has kidnapped and all that stuff. And we do have a wonderful moment, and I thought this was very relatable. They see her, she realizes they see her as the adult. which of course she is, because they're all out of they're all college age. So she's like 19, 20, something like that. So she is technically the adult.
Yeah.
And as much as like me and Kevin might look at a 19 or 20-year-old and go,
that's a child.
That's a child. That it is true that she's an adult, and she has that moment of like, oh, that's so weird. I guess I am the adult here. And I think all of us of a certain age, we have had that moment of like, oh boy. Hopefully, it's less traumatic than this one. Hopefully, it's the first time you don't get. Oh no!
Everyone's looking for an adult, and I am that person.
Oh no! That is yeah. Finding out you're an adult is one thing. Finding out I'm a responsible adult who's being expected to be responsible. That's a whole other can of worms. That can send you off a cliff. That is dangerous shit. So she promises to get them out. We have a sweet moment of her just kind of, we're going to do this. And we cut to Carlton and Marla. Marla, who I mentioned, she isn't entirely useless in this. She's I maybe missed it. I guess she's going to school to be a doctor or nurse or some goddamn thing. And so as Charlie has been recovering, she's been at her side checking her pulse, and it's played for comic effect, like she's that level of caretaker, but it's kind of endearing. But it's just the two of them. Carlton gets Marla up to speed on what's going on. And she goes, well, that's kind of crazy because there's this commercial for the clown pizza place that has been playing all goddamn night long. The one that says, you know, if you dress like a clown, you get free pizza. And so it's like, okay, we got to go there. We got to figure out what the hell's going on.
Right.
And chapter 10 ends with them agreeing to head out there. So this section, that's what we've got. This section ends with Carlton and Marla heading out to the pizza place, Charlie and John heading out to the abandoned ghost town, and Jessica stuck in a basement owned by Ethan Embry with a bunch of kidnapped kids. My apologies to Ethan Embry. I'm sure he's a wonderful man.
The guy, he looks in that photo, he looked like the guy from Far Cry 5.
Yes, that's exactly what he looks like. Yes, thank you. You nailed it. I was trying to put my finger on it. I said, there's a video game reference here. And I can't.
No, it's Far Cry 5. It's
nailed it. That's exactly what he looks like. Okay. So Kevin, what do you think so far? We're 2/3 of the way through.
I like it so far. I mean, it went from in the first third of the book, it was like, all right, we're going through this weird grief stuff, and we're just we have a lot of trauma and we're dealing with it. And John is dealing with some sort of, paranoia and survivor's guilt perhaps, or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And then it transitions to, no, John was right about everything, and it's going to get worse.
and the thing is I had it in my head that I was like, oh, this could be very tense if they keep the paranoid aspect of John up, and his friends start being like, I can't deal with you and stuff. And I was hoping they would play that out longer, and they didn't, but it still really works. They still gave us a lot of good shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. This is pretty
100%. The other, and what's funny is, I think was it John? At some point in one of the John moments, he's talking about how like he sees the real Charlie and then he sees the fake Charlie not long after. And at that point, he can tell, like he's able to tell specifically, it's like, eyes like slightly too far apart. Like he's able to pick out the little things that are wrong with the illusion now.
Yeah, he starts to things that he should have known before.
That actually, the things that were like triggering his uncanny valleyness, basically with Charlie, which is what it is, are he can now define them as like her eyes are the fake Charlie's eyes are slightly too far apart. The mouth is this, the forehead is this, it's and all together. It's like if you hadn't seen Charlie, but if you were a guy like him who was hopelessly in love with Charlie, a little bit more obsessed with her face and all that, like remembering her face, that would set you off right away. Like,
absolutely,
no, that's wrong.
When you've grown accustomed to her face, you notice.
To her face, you know.
Show must makes the day begin. Sorry. Anyway. Fucking Rex Harrison. And I'm with you 100%. I think this is wild. I don't think we have ever, I'm sure we talked about this last episode, but I don't think we've ever encountered a series that like started off so slow and just picked the fuck up in a big way like this. This is, I love it. It's just crazy.
Me too. No,
so
it's a
fucking
fun,
awesome.
It's a fun change to see.
Oh yeah. Because this is such a, I mean, FNAF is such a ubiquitous game series. It's it will be for a much longer time than anybody is really aware of and or comfortable with. Because it came out 10 years ago, first started 10 years ago about. And now it's this whole franchise now. It's like the Star Wars goddamn universe.
Well, and that's the thing is the movie came out and the movie was relatively low budget. Like they didn't spend a ton on it. And it made $1 bajillion at the box office. Yeah. So that they're just going to keep rolling with that forever.
Oh yeah, they're going to do it. They know it's just easy cash for the time being.
Yeah.
That well will dry up eventually, but for now,
well, that's the other thing is I think studios are starting to realize that mid-low budget horror is actually pretty bankable when you look at the fact that Terrifier 3 just won the box office this past weekend.
Yep.
It's the third installment of an originally super low budget horror flick.
And just spanked the shit out of the new Joker movie.
Yeah.
Like just spanked it hard.
Yeah. So if we're getting back to an era of you're going to just see fucking horror movies, not necessarily quote unquote elevated horror.
Right.
I'm not talking about A24 neon whatever. I'm talking about fucking Terrifier 3 with wacky gruesome kills. Much in the New Line cinema way of making movies where you have like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and all that stuff. And I think was Art the Clown in the Terrifier series is very much a return to that kind of villain in a horror setting.
Just mindless horror. It's it's not deep. There's not a lot of backstory that you have
a villain that you're like part of you is kind of like rooting for.
He's somehow got charisma despite all of that. Yeah, it's wild.
He's got that villain riz.
And that you're absolutely right though, Kevin, because worse things could happen.
Yeah.
Than for us to suddenly be flush with like mid-budget horror flicks, and a bunch of them will suck, but a bunch of them will be really good.
Yeah.
So there's a hell of a lot worse that could happen. So that's pretty cool. So it's nice to see, especially with the backstory. I became obsessed for a little while. I'm not a big FNAF player, but I became obsessed for a little while with all the MatPat videos and the digging and all that. I loved that shit before it got completely out of pocket after a while. But I really loved it for a little while there, and I was like, if this is true, if this is what the original intent for the game was, then this is fascinating because I do love that stuff. I love that hidden stuff in games. So if you're going to have a novel, I'm glad that it's a novel series. I'm glad that it's amping up in quality, even if it's right at the tail end.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully that will remain all the way through. We'll see. Next episode, we're going to find out how it all gets wrapped up. But in the meantime, Kevin, I just have one question left to ask you. What are you playing?
Okay, so I am playing the Silent Hill 2 remake.
Okay, here we go.
Thoughts and feelings time. So I played the Silent Hill to Enhanced Edition about a month or so ago. And it's basically a modded version of the PC release of Silent Hill 2 that brings it up to 4K, 60 frames per second, up-reses all the textures, looks gorgeous, runs gorgeous.
You recommended it to me on the show.
Yeah, if you have, unless you have like a copy of Silent Hill 2 laying around that's like the original version and you want to play that on a crunchy CRT screen just for the full original effect. But most of you are not going to have that, so go ahead and find the Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition. My Abandonware is the place to go and find that. And I think they have Silent Hill 1 and 3 there as well that you can grab and download and install. There's no enhanced editions of those, but at least you can get them. Anyway, so I played Silent Hill 2 Enhanced Edition because I had never played Silent Hill 2 in my prior gaming life. I was very much into Resident Evil. I thought Silent Hill looked a little like, I don't know. When I was a kid, it just never really spoke to me. I was like, that's trying to be real scary. I want Resident Evil scary.
Yeah.
So Silent Hill 2, I think, is a very good game. I'm repeating a lot of what I said. Whoop, did I lose my camera?
Oh.
Basically, I'm repeating a lot of what I said last time I talked about it, but just to kind of give a refresher. All right, so I felt like it's good. There's things that I didn't like about it necessarily, but it's a good game. I understand why people are obsessed with it. Silent Hill 2 Remake is very faithful in certain ways, and I think everybody initially, when it was announced that this was going to be remade, people were like, hey, this is just going to be Bloober Team's time to fail. They're going to fail so hard on this. And I can safely say they did not fail to do justice to Silent Hill 2. I don't think that you can say that they failed to recapture Silent Hill 2. Now, I know there's going to be some Silent Hill 2 aficionados who are going to look at the remake and be like, okay, well, they didn't have this line read this way and it changed this meaning and so-and-so's character. That's fine. That's a valid opinion. I don't share it, but whatever. But that being said, I think they did some things that I wouldn't have done necessarily were I hypothetically in charge of the remake. So my standard for remakes, my gold tier standard for remaking a classic is like Resident Evil 2 Remake. I think that is one of the best. It is a stellar game. Love it. I might go and play it again this year.
I was just gonna say you repeating its name just made
saying the name to you 3 times.
And it appears and suddenly it's downloading on Steam. Oh no! My PC is haunted. Is it?
Yeah, and like that is my top tier best of the best in terms of a remake. And I look at what the Resident Evil 2 remake did is it fleshed out things that needed more time, and didn't flesh out things that necessarily did not. So like Marvin, the officer who helps you, gets a lot more in the remake than he did in the original game, where he's just like, you find his dead body and then he turns into a zombie. Or you find him dying and he turns into a zombie. In this, he's like an actual helpful character who kind of sets you on your path to getting out. And it added a bunch of touching moments that weren't in the original game, like the gun store owner, Robert Kendo, probably that was a moment that was just like, woof.
It's lovely. It was lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I'll say about that. So Silent Hill 2 Remake does a bunch of things that I don't agree with in terms of lengthening. So the opening of Silent Hill 2 is very tight, and it doesn't take you very long to get to a character named Maria, who is very integral to the plot. It doesn't take, but from starting it up to meeting her is not like, it's not an eternity to get there, right? In the remake, it feels long. Like, it feels like a long time before you actually get to Maria. And that's because there's just been segments that have been stretched and extended longer than they ever were in the original. And while I don't like it at the beginning, there was a certain part where it clicks with me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm fine. I'm having fun here. This is good. And then there will be like a part later where it just unclicks, and it'll be like, oh. So there's just like parts of the game where it's like, this part was fine to extend. This part, which you also extended, should not have been. Right. It's pretty much they just added 50% to every single section of the game, regardless of whether it needed it or not.
Okay, so more for the sake of it being more, basically.
Yeah, and so it's gonna, I'll probably put in 14, 15 hours to beat the game when the original took 7 to, so it ends up being like a double in length, just about.
They gotta justify their $70 price tag.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually going to be recording a podcast, and we're going to drop it into the Pixel.lit feed when it's done. Everybody will get a copy of it to drop in their feed, but I'm going to be recording a podcast with James, aka Hot Cider, Pim from Pim's Crypt, and Sputnik 34. We're all going to discuss and break down our opinions on the Silent Hill 2 remake, and we have a variety of takes. From just absolutely loving it and adoring it on Sputnik's side to hating it thoroughly. Then that's going to be your hot cider. So
that is a hell of a lineup. That's gonna be excellent. That is such a good lineup of fucking people.
So yeah, it'll be on the Pixel.lit feed. It's also going to be, if you subscribe to Bullet Time, I think James is going to publish it to Bullet Time, and Pim will probably put it on their channel. Keep an eye out for that whenever we get a chance to sit down and record. But that's what I've been playing, Phil. Okay. What have you been playing?
Well, as I mentioned, I've been out of town. But I did manage to get some good gaming in. I went ahead and I took my Switch on the road with me. It's my favorite. I think I've mentioned on the show before, I've literally never plugged my Switch into my television. I have only ever used it as a handheld, and that is just fine by me. And so I got to play Conscript. I went ahead and bought Conscript. We've talked about this game before. Kind of a Resident Evil style World War I horror action puzzle game where you keep expecting zombies or something to show up, but the horror is just the war. And that is really impressive shit. A lot of backtracking, a lot of little puzzles and all that kind of thing. And I had a blast. Because there's something about it that's very, I guess you could say this of any like Resident Evil style game. You can do it in little chunks. So I did it 45 minutes at the New York area, the LaGuardia, and
right.
Half an hour at the hotel, whatever. And it keeps your attention. It's really interesting. This could, I could absolutely see it being in Game of the Year territory. It's the Resident Evil formula, and we've both talked about this game, so I'm not going to belabor it.
Sure.
But it's done very well. And plus I love World War I stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
Then I when I got home, I downloaded.
By the way, sorry to interrupt. Horror set during World War I is. Ooh. I've seen it several times over the last couple of years, and I still say it's untapped. It is.
There needs to be more of it.
There needs to be more of it. And one of my favorite Warhammer 40K stories is basically could be a World War I story. It's one of my favorite horror stories from the 40K universe, where it takes place entirely in a trench.
Yeah.
It's
that shit is awesome. I love it.
It's brilliant.
I agree. It's totally untapped territory. We need more of that stuff. And so I was obviously I was very, very happy to see, Conscript being I was actually extra happy to see Conscript on the Switch. Right. There was something about it where it's like, oh, I'm going to play the shit out of this on my Switch. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And so far, so good. Good. I downloaded the demo for Be Crowned. I think it was Pim. Pim may have recommended this one on the Bird Machine, and this is basically a Resident Evil Silent Hill kind of mashup. It's got very Silent Hill vibes with very Resident Evil gaming style, but it's also got a biblical vibe to it.
Sure.
You've got like the multi-eyed angels of seraphim and stuff like that, and you're still dealing with undead-looking kind of creatures, but it's got this strange biblical bent to it, which I think is very, very interesting because I can't believe it took that long. And there are games out there who have done that with the biblical shit, but like not as many. Kind of like the World War I thing, not as many as I'd expect.
Right.
It's interesting. It's got kind of PS2 visuals to it. It's got that fixed camera thing you get from the old Resident Evil games. The fixed camera kind of shifts itself though, which is weird. Like you get a fixed camera for one section, and then if you come into the same area from a different angle, it'll kind of slide around a little bit. So you're not, whereas the old school ones, it was like literally, this is how you see the room, period.
Yeah.
The shift, it's got kind of, some indie jank, where, for example, the controls, it's that thing where you're going one direction in one scene and you're running from monsters, and I'm holding right to run away from the monsters, and I end up in a hallway and I'm running down now, and it doesn't give you quite a lot of recovery time to suddenly pull so suddenly I'm running back at the monster. It's like, shit, no, like that's not what I want. So it's got some indie jank, which that's not a deal breaker.
Sure.
Very interesting stuff. I highly recommend people at least download the demo and give it a look. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to it this year, but I'm very intrigued. Very interesting idea. You're in this. It's got a lot of standard tropey shit. Like you're in this old mental institution. There were some kind of Outlast vibes in there too.
Sure.
So it's got some interesting stuff. It seems to be stealing from the right places, and I'm definitely intrigued enough to play more of it somewhere down the line.
And just for those of you listening, it's technically part of the Next Fest demos. So Steam Next Fest is happening starting today as we're recording it. So the 14th to the 21st. So the Next Fest will have been going for 2 days when this episode airs. Go ahead, do yourself a favor and check out Steam Next Fest, because there's often a lot of things like games like Balatro were on like Next Fest last year, where you could play that first demo or one of the early demos of that. Games that are big this year were in the demos stages last year. So definitely check out Steam Next Fest, especially if you're trying to figure out, okay, what's going to be a 2025 game? Like there's this one that just popped up called New Arc Line, which I clicked on it, and it's a RPG, a party-based story-rich RPG, single player. It's a steampunk world, and it says similar to other games you've played. Baldur's Gate 3, 99 hours on record. Rogue Trader, 117 hours on record. So I was like,
intriguing.
Gonna download the demo for that.
Very intriguing. Yeah.
The demo itself is 13 gigs.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's a beefy demo. New Arc Line.
look at that one. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I've been doing more of these demos and everything like that. It just there's nothing to lose, and you're going to learn a lot and maybe find some hidden gem or be ahead of the game in terms of like the next big thing, whatever. And frankly, indie games rule. Indie games are always better. In my experience, for the most part. Jesus, that is a huge demo. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a big demo. I get recommended just the weirdest. Like, I gotta just put on the filter for turning off the hentai games because.
How do you do that? Could you please? You've helped me with. If you find out, please tell me. I'm sick of it. I don't do Phil Plays a Porno anymore. I don't need these games.
You're like, I am an adult now. I was only in my 30s when I did that series.
It's true. It's true.
No,
I'm a big boy.
Totally,
I just turned 42.
It's like, let me go and search for them. Just don't drop them in the recommended for you section.
I don't see how it just drop out of nowhere. Like
there's this game Spirit Valley. You're seeing this game because you have set your preferences to allow this content. This game is marked adults only, but adults only could mean also violent games. So that's the problem. Mm-hmm. I gotta figure out where anyway, this game Spirit Valley popped up, and it's like, oh, it's Stardew Valley, but porn.
Porn,
literally.
Which, look, that's fascinating. I appreciate that you gave that a shot, but Jesus Christ, there's so much porn game out there. It never ends.
It never ends.
Never ends. And I'm not putting down the idea that if you dig those, look, Honey Pop was one of my games of the year it came out. I love dirty shit. Don't get me wrong, but it's just it goes on and on and on. It's just never ending.
Never ending.
Never ending. But I have started playing one last game, and I think you'll be particularly interested in this one, Kevin. I finally got around to playing Homebody.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, how you feeling so far?
Really enjoying it. It is probably one of the harder survival horror games I've ever played, and that's because the puzzles are all the kinds of puzzles that I suck at. It's like the water pressure thing where you got to get the gauge just so, and you got to get the patterns. It's like all these visual puzzles that I've always been bad at. So I'm cheating a little bit just to get through it. But it's a fun, it's essentially a roguelike survival horror game, which you don't really see that, it's interesting. Sort of.
Kinda ish. It's weird. It's it's very much like if you consider a game like Clock Tower, or because it's also like point and click adventure. So it's it's interesting. It's a very interesting combination of genres, and it deals with like the interesting dialogue options where you try to say something and you can't really say it. It's got amazing, really interesting stuff. It plays with a lot of like anxiety and depression stuff. A lot of themes with anxiety and depression where it's like you have something you want to say and then you click on it and your character just says not that. It's just
like so some more placating or safe thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's got amazing atmosphere. I really love the visuals of it. The villain is creepy as shit.
Yes.
Very creepy villain. And the sound design is probably its MVP, if you ask me. It doesn't have much in the way of music, but there's just this constant, because basically you're in a cabin in the woods.
Right.
And like I'm not going to go too deep into it because you really ought to just play it. But you're in a cabin in the woods, and so much of the time that you're there is spent just hearing crickets outside. And it's just this eerie, tense kind of level of fear that builds up when you're waiting for a certain time to hit because you're playing it through a certain space of time, and
Right.
And you know, so at 7 o'clock certain things happen, at 9 o'clock certain things happen, etc. And when you're waiting for that, the tension of just waiting, because you can't speed it up, you can't slow it down, and there's not even any creepy ambient music. It's just fucking crickets
And then you hear this
creaking floorboards. And,
Yeah.
ooh.
Then you hear this guy, and you just hear like the sound of his knife as he kills other people, and you just hear shing off in the distance. It's like
It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. So I that's another one I recommend for people. I'm glad I finally got to play it. Yeah, loved that one. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm really impressed with it. I'm really impressed with the puzzles.
it gets a lot weirder as it goes. The weirdness just keeps like dialing up as
I've
it
gone
continues.
through like 3 playthroughs so far.
Sure.
So I haven't gotten too deep into it, but it's
Got it.
Very unique, very clever. If you like survival horror, the worst you can do is put it on your wish list and wait for a sale or something, because it's not expensive.
Right.
What, $10 by itself?
Yeah, it's cheap.
And I think I got it on one of the major sales for like $3 or $4.
Right.
So it's worth a look. I really enjoyed it. So Home Buddy. That's what I've been playing.
Good. All right. And that's it. That's all you got on your what you've been playing. That's all I got on what I've been playing. So that means it's time for the end of the episode. Go ahead and follow us on like Twitter and Instagram and some of those other sites. I think would be a good place. Go to YouTube and subscribe and give us a like and a comment.
Please.
We've been growing up our YouTube, and we've actually been doing some decent numbers now on YouTube, and it's nice to see. We used to only get like 5-10 views on a new video. Now we're up to 40 and 50 on a new video, which is nice. It's good.
It's great. It's a great way to find people. I love it.
It's great. Bye.
Bye.